All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 218 of the KissFAQ Podcast. I'm your host, Julian Gill, admin on the FAQ message board, and I am joined today by, if you didn't already know everyone's names, Marcus Almighty, Mark.
Greetings, sir.
69th Blizzard, Ken.
Hey.
And St. Louis Kiss, Lonnie.
What's up?
Gentlemen. Oh, I completely screwed up the kind of giveaway last week. I kind of forgot to say when I was going to hold the drawing, which I did hold last night. And congratulations to hold. Yeah, give up, keep my day job. The winner of that translucent orange was the correct answer, and I accepted gold, orange.
Go.
Red was not the right answer, but neither was black or aqua. Or you suck. You suck was definitely was the wrong answer.
This show sucks.
So Javier, congratulations. I will get that in the post by the weekend, and I hope you enjoy it. I will be doing more giveaways soon. I just got a bunch of proofs of the final version of the Gene Simmons Vault supplement in, and I made one change after I ordered those proofs, so I've got some of those to give away. And I'm going to wait until the new year, because it's Christmas time, and you're going to get presents from people who actually love you. So we'll just leave that comment there. What else do we have to cover? Yeah. So the hardcover of that Vault supplement is up on Amazon now. It is live. There's an update to the Kindle version. If you bought that previously, you should be allowed to download the full update to the final version, which of course is quite expanded on the original. What other news? There was the game show broadcast this past weekend. What was it? The Gamers Choice Awards, right, which I did not see, but there's a lot of interview segments about that out on YouTube, which are wonderful. Ace is continuing to be Ace in his interviews. I think his most recent one to be publicized by the great Blabbermouth was Kiss is nothing more than half a tribute band now. So for someone who says his phone's ready for that emergency call, somehow I don't think so.
It ain't happening.
No, you better hope that Alice Cooper actually knows that he's touring with Ace next year, because otherwise things can get a little bit embarrassing. Let's just start off with this before we, we're going to talk about Ace more today anyway. But do you think Ace has made a complete meal out of getting back in the band? And could he do anything worse? Could he say anything worse? Could he handle this any worse than he has? Mark, your head's shaking like a bobblehead, so...
Well, I think that I can't imagine him saying anything worse than he already has. I mean, apart from just saying that they suck without him totally. I mean, what else has he really said? I mean, he said they're half a tribute band now. He said that if he wants to come back and get his throne back and all this other stuff that he said in the press. I mean, for somebody who wants to come back into a band that he knows that they don't really need him back in the band for, he's really approaching it the wrong way. I mean, you should be more complimentary, I think, to the people you want to rehire you than being insultive towards them. So I think he's doing a horrible job. I don't think that he should be approaching it this way.
Yeah, he's gone from unneeded to unwanted, and Gene Simmons has sent him a Kiss toilet cover. Here's your throne back, Ace. Ken, what's your thoughts on Ace? And I do want to ask you, are you going to go to Jackson? Because those tickets are now up. They're doing a little cluster of 3 shows in January. One, of course, in Jackson, California, which is just somewhere like 20 miles around from Sacramento, wherever the fuck it is. I'm going. I bought tickets. I'm like, if there possibility of them doing the 78 album up there, I'm down with it. So.
Right. No, I'm considering it. I haven't bought any tickets, but I'm considering it. I saw that. So as for Ace talking about, he's being in Kiss and all this stuff. And yeah, he's going the wrong way about it. He should be kissing their butts as much as he can. But at this point, who knows what goes on behind the scenes that we don't hear or know. And I think it all boils down. The final call is always going to be Paul's choice. So, and it just seems to me that they're not going to use him, and maybe because he wants too much money or too much time on stage, something like that. So, yeah, he's basically burned his bridges at this point.
Yeah, Lonnie.
I feel like he's going about a lot of things the wrong way right now, as far as not only wanting to be back in the band and the statements that he's made about the current lineup, but then, you mentioned it a little bit ago, like, oh, well, I'm going to go on tour with Alice Cooper next year. I'm like, oh, okay. I think that was news to Alice at the time when he said that. So I think he's just handling a lot of dealings with the press the wrong way right now. And I just think at the end of the day, he's just a little banty that he wasn't asked to come back for the final tour. And I think he thought in his mind that, well, they're going to ask me to come back for the final tour. I mean, I think he truly believed that in the back of his mind. And he is not only disappointed, but he just doesn't know what to think of all this, that they're going out on the last tour without him. And I don't think obviously he's not processing it very well, that they're doing this without him. And he's not accepting the fact that they're doing this without him. So maybe he needs to lie on the couch for a little while and talk these things out, because I don't think he's processing it or handling it well at all.
The ace man is unable to compute at the moment. Speaking about spacemen, Tommy Thayer, actually. I have been trying to interview Tommy for years. Every year, I send the futile request for an interview. I just know it's going to be futile because of what I've heard. What I wanted to do in my interview with Tommy was actually go through his top 10 Kiss songs and why. And now that's actually been done by someone else on a feature on Music Radar. Did an interview with Tommy about these are my favorite Kiss songs. So his top 10 is actually, well, his number one is Rock and Roll All Night. So I don't think...
What?
I don't think I would have had a really good conversation with him, especially since I wanted to talk about seeing Kiss in the 70s and, kind of his fandom and work it into, kind of like an album by album. But Rock and Roll All Night was number one, Shout It Out Loud, number two, God Gave Rock and Roll to You, number three, which is actually cool. That's pretty much the only outside-the-box pick in his list. Number four, Detroit Rock City. Number five, I Was Made for Loving You. So, stroking Paul there. Got to Choose. Oh, yeah.
Don't say stroking Paul.
Yes. Out of This World. I'm actually glad he put in one of his own songs, because that's a fuck you to the haters. And I think that's absolutely appropriate after the amount of time he's been in the band. And Psycho Circus, number 8. Black Diamond, number 9. And then the only one which I really thought was really outside the box is Love Her All I Can, which I love. So, interesting picks. I think I would have tried to get him to go a little bit more where he was coming from, say, in 1993 when he was in Cold Gin. But, go to Music Radar. We've got the link up on the FAQ as well. But don't bash the spaceman. Maybe just...
If you look at what he says about some of those songs, where he talks about Shout It Out Loud, he talks about, when we do Shout It Out Loud, we've been putting on makeup for the last 2 hours and we come out there and it really sounds to me like they're going to keep Shout It Out Loud as the lead-off song and the first song on the set list. And what his comments are about Shout It Out Loud.
Yep. And there's some also, for those people, Ace E.G. comes to mind immediately. Some comments about the Psycho Circus album. Here's a great quote. I don't want to take anything away from the website, so go there and read it. But I actually recorded that album, but wasn't credited because it was a transitional time. Chuckles. I played all that stuff, and I pledge allegiance to the state of rock and roll. I think that's a cool one. Really high energy, up tempo, but let me pick something else. So he's talking about, Psycho Circus and, there you find out a little bit more. The direct admission that we already knew. We already knew Tommy. We know how much he got paid as well. If Gene's notes are to be believed, we know at least what he was offered. So, all right, let's get back to the real spaceman. Ace, and I already did a very long recap of the expo with Andy the other day, or when this airs last week. But I wanted to kind of touch base with you guys about what you thought about the performance, as best as you can judge from all the YouTube videos, which admittedly there were PA issues throughout. They were basically using a politician's PA for a band.
Yeah.
It really wasn't a particularly great setup. But then again, you're in a hotel ballroom, so you're just not going to have a great setup anyway. But what did you think about well, let's start with the concept. Did you think it was a good idea, bad idea, or an indifferent idea to Ace deciding that he was going to tackle that whole 78 album? Lonnie, let's start with you on there.
Actually, I think it was a great idea to tackle that concept. And I think that it's a shame that at the end of 2018 that he was doing that. I think it's something that he should have been doing the entire year, and something he should have been touring under as a solo performer, as the one original member of Kiss that's, is making a career out of solo touring, is that he should have billed any show he did in 2018, whether it was with his old band with Richie or this new band that's Gene's band, as the 40th anniversary of the Kiss solo records, and that he was going to go out there and play it start to finish, those songs, and then he could take a little break and come back and do whatever else he wanted to do. But I love the concept. I just think it could have been executed even better than what it was, as opposed to possibly just a one-off at a Kiss Expo. I think it's something he could have toured under that might have gotten a casual Kiss fan who might have skipped an Ace Frehley show to come out and see him.
Yeah, even Gene billed his Australian shows as the 40th anniversary of the solo albums, and then didn't do any of it whatsoever. So, Mark, what's your
That's
thought?
not shocking either.
Well, I thought that it was a great idea. I agree with Lonnie that I wish he would have did it more throughout the year, because he does it now in December, where it's the last month of. He didn't really get too much opportunity to do it from here on in as a proper 40th anniversary. Now, the reason why I think he did it now, though, is because I think he got the feeling that he had the best captive audience for it, as far as this goes, right? I also think, though, that he didn't want to do it maybe before, because I think that this band was much better at performing it. I think that he had an extra guitar player here. He was able to do all the double leads properly with those guys. He had somebody else who could do some of the extra singing. I think the band was spectacular. They did a great job performing this. Would they have been able to do it as good with Richie and the other guys? I don't think so. I don't think that they would have performed it as good as with this band. So I think that he really held off because of that.
Or was prevented from ever doing so because of, and then once they had the band. Ken, what's your take on the whole kind of 78 situation? And if Ace does it, would you like other band members? Do you think it was just a missed opportunity this year that they didn't really celebrate the solo albums properly? None of the original four, other than the box set.
Yeah, it's a missed opportunity. It's kind of a big deal. I mean, it's each of their own albums, original first solo albums that they're celebrating. I don't understand that. But as for Ace, I understand to a degree. I understand what he's doing. Yes, like what Mark said, the band is great that he has, and then I think he's going to monetize the darn thing. He's been talking to Gene a lot, so he's I think wants to record it, from what I read, in maybe some kind of like a theater environment or something that looks more professional, and then put it out as a video.
You mentioned it during the show, actually.
Oh, there you go. So that would be cool. I mean, that would be a very cool thing if they do a great job on it. I guess the only other thing Ace could do, since no one else is doing their solo stuff really, except Gene does a couple songs right from his album, is maybe he can do his solo album, and then on the as part of it or at the end of it, do hey, this is my favorite song off of Gene's album. I'm going to do that, and do one from Paul's, and then do one from Peter's. I don't know which one you do from Peter's, but it'd be kind of interesting to hear his take on any of those songs.
That's actually nuts. I love that idea.
Yeah. Well, he did move on with them when they did the Dynasty tour, right?
Yeah, and Tossing and Turning and Radioactive.
Radioactive.
So
yeah,
I mean,
so you can pull them off.
Yeah, and there's certainly opportunities and whatnot for him. Maybe if he practices.
Let's not go there.
Yeah, where are my notes here? So, from the video, I mean, obviously he did say, that's why they had asked people not to film, and fortunately people didn't listen, so we're able to watch a live stream of it, and multiple people did manage to take nefarious clips, which you pretty much end up with the whole show. What do you think he did particularly well that night? And let's just start with that. What do you think he did particularly well in terms of the songs, those that you could hear without the PA issues? Because it started off well, the show. The first few songs, I think it was only into the third song that when the PA started shitting itself. Ken, let's go back to you. I mean, what were the positives that you took out of the performance when you watched it?
I only saw the first few songs anyway of it. I didn't see the whole thing, but from those that I watched, I thought it was pretty good. I like that he attempted to, replicate as much as he can his solos. It's a very important thing, his solos, because they're so melodic and ingrained, especially in our heads from listening to it for so many years. He did a pretty good job on them. I mean, they're not, note for note from his, of course, solos. And I guess he does that anyway. He did that in Kiss. He wasn't always note for note. Sometimes he did. But, I think he did a pretty good job. I mean, he was putting the effort in. You could see he was putting the effort in. He wasn't being lazy about it. And I like that he was really trying and focusing on what he was playing to try to do it as good as he could. So that's what I liked.
Yeah, good points. Lonnie, how about you?
I thought he did an excellent job. I think Rip It Out sounded great, and Speeding Back My Baby sounded really good, as did New York Groove. I think the songs that and Snowblind sounded good too. I think the songs that he's used to playing and still plays on a regular basis sounded good. And the ones that, he doesn't play as much, or maybe hasn't played in a very long time, if ever, I think the band covered up for how the band's so good that it kind of faked their way through it, that Ace wasn't as sharp on those as others. And that's to be said with anything in life. If you do something on a regular basis, you're really good on the, each one of us in any job that we do. I'm really good at the things that I do every day. The things I don't do every day, well, I'm a little shaky at, but I'll fake my way through it sometimes if I have to. And that's life. So, but I do think the ones that he sounded good on are the ones that he plays on a regular basis. I thought it was good though. I love the concept of it. One thing I wish he wouldn't have talked in between songs. I wish that it just would have just flowed like the album, and just do one song and then the other, and then one song and then the next, and just did it in that style anyway. But I guess we'll get into
with a precise 2-second gap between songs, or
correct.
Could he have 3 between one and maybe 4 between
and
the other?
Maybe a couple extra seconds so you could flip the record over before New Year Groove started, things like that.
Well,
but anyway, I just think the songs that he performs on a regular basis sounded good, as opposed to songs he doesn't perform just sounded a little rocky. But he's playing it for a few hundred people, maybe one time. When he goes back out and does shows at clubs, he might just go back to his standard set list, which he probably will. So he's kind of like, I'll just kind of fake my way through this and give them what they wanted, and then go back to doing my regular thing.
Or maybe they can do old school and actually get a rehearsal hall and rehearse the whole band at the same time, because one of the band
costs
members,
too much.
one of the guys was sick. I know another one had flown in, I think, just 2 days before. So there wasn't a whole lot of time for them to get it together. And I think that's one thing that's... And Mark, I'll get to you in 1 second as the musician. That really, I think, helps this performance is that it starts off with Rip It Out, Speeding Back to My Baby, and Snowblind. He's done Snowblind in recent years. He's done Speeding Back as part of a medley. He always does Rip It Out. So that's 3 very easy songs to kind of work in the muscle memory and all that in terms of the performance. So you set a very solid foundation by doing those 3 songs. And they did an extremely good job. I said on the podcast with Andy that, I loved the thickness of the guitars with the 3 guitarists, that it just allowed Ace a little bit more flexibility for his inherent sloppiness to be covered. So, those were kind of strong points just because they're unadventurous strong points. They're going to be strong because they're always done. So, they're, if anything, they're the easiest. Mark, talk us down and tell us, where you look at this from.
I'm surprised because actually, as much as I respect you guys' opinions on a lot of these things, I find that I'm a little bit on the opposite end of this for once. I think that this show was excellent. Like, honestly, and I usually have a lot of comments to say about Ace, but I was in a way kind of almost shocked watching this because I thought that he did a great job on this. I watched this show like 4 or 5 times thanks to, the video that you put in the Dropbox, that I watched the entire thing. And I was surprised. And for once, I'll disagree with Lonnie on one thing. I think the songs that he does all the time, like Rip It Out and New York Groove, are the worst songs that he did. Because I think that because when you're a musician, you play a song over and over and over again, you start you're getting a little bored and stale of it, having played it 100,000 times. It's the songs that you haven't played on stage for a long time that you got a little bit of, a little excitement. Okay, I'm going to be playing something new. Bands always get excited when they put a new song in their set list, because they're so getting sick of playing the same stuff over and over again. Like, they must be so sick of playing rock and roll all night. I'm probably going to put a gun to their heads at this point.
Whatever, it's Tommy's favorite song.
But what I'm saying, that, like, for example, Speeding Back to My Baby and like Snowblind were excellent. I thought Ozone was fantastic. I mean, the only comment I had about that was that I just wished that he would have sang that as well. I know it's a little bit of an odd song to have maybe played and to sing, so I guess he wanted to keep everything strong. And rather than have a song that he really botched up, he gave the vocals to somebody else to do. But, What's on Your Mind, I thought was excellent. I thought the drummer did a great job on a lot of these songs. I thought he played really, really well. And, even songs like Need Some Love was really good. And the double lead playing that they did was really strong. I thought that he did a great job. And I especially thought that the ones that he didn't do often, I thought New York Groove was terrible, frankly. Like that whole breakdown part where he made everybody clap and sing that part, back in New York Groove, it was not well rehearsed, that part, because he had no ad-libbing in between. He was just standing there waiting for him to sing it all the time. But, I put at the end of my notes here that I thought overall the show was great. And I think that the more they do that whole set more often, I think they would just smoothen out those rough edges. And overall, it would be an awesome show to go see, to him doing that whole record top to bottom. And again, like Fractured Mirror, that was a little shaky in spots too. But I mean, that's a song that had multiple guitar parts and stuff like that. So the fact that they had 3 guitar players helped them in that. But I think if they were to rehearse that a bit more, they could have did an excellent job. But like
with a proper PA, because I don't think we heard that one properly because of the technical issues affecting the show. So I think there are layers getting played on stage that weren't coming out.
And same like Need Some Love, when they did that delayed guitar part, that doom doom doom. That was a really cool idea to have one guitar player dedicated to doing that. I thought they used the 3 guitars very wisely with that stuff, and I thought that that's one of the big things that I think I got to tip my hat to Ace with this time, and the band especially, that they really thought about these parts, spread them out properly so that they made sense overall, and it just turned out to be a really good set. I thought that it was probably one of the best sets I've ever heard Ace do.
So to counter one of the things that Mark mentioned, Ken, do you think it's okay for Ace to not sing all the songs that he had? I can't remember which one of the guys in the band sang one song, and then of course Matt Starr I think sang the other. Both of the kind of the addiction songs.
Ozone and
Wiped Out.
Wiped Out.
Yeah.
No, I think it's okay. I think it's fine if the other guy can handle it, and it gives Ace, the ability to get his specific guitar parts correct, and efficient. I think it's absolutely fine. I mean, especially if the guy can sing pretty good, why not?
Lonnie, what about you?
No, I'd rather Ace do them. It's Ace's solo album. I want to hear Ace sing them. Sorry, I'm selfish, but that's what I want. I want to hear Ace sing them. I'm at an Ace Frehley show. He's doing his Ace Frehley 78 solo album. I'm not here to see someone else sing them. I want to see Ace Frehley sing them.
From what you listened to that day, Lonnie, or since, what are the songs that you think he needs to work on the most from that set that just didn't seem to work for you? I mean, Mark has kind of said that New Yorker is probably one of them. I was watching it last night while we were making dinner, and I just had it on YouTube through the TV, and my wife actually commented about New York Groove. She's like, it sounds so slow. It did, and then she mentioned that, and I go, it is kind of plodding along a little bit. I thought it could have, sped up a little bit of a tempo lift, but I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that the songs that he didn't play on a regular basis, like Ozone or Wiped Out or What's on Your Mind, were terrible, but I could just tell that the band had rehearsed them more than Ace had rehearsed them. I think you could see that. I think the band and the band covered up for the fact that he hadn't rehearsed them as much as they had, and they covered up the ones.
Mm-hmm. I can agree with that.
Mark, would you say that there are any songs on this album after hearing the whole thing performed that just did not work live, and are ones that he should really rethink or maybe rearrange the next time he does them?
Well, I mean, I think every song that he did can work in a live capacity. I think that he's a smart writer in that sense, that when he did his solo album, that he didn't make them an overproduced thing where he can't perform them. The only song that comes to mind that's sort of like that is just Fractured Mirror. I think that's the only song they probably need to just really sit down and say, okay, listen, let's just work this out properly. You take this part, I'll take this part. That's the only one that just seemed that there was a little bit of a, miscue here and there on it. But other than that, I think everything on there was great. I think they played them really, really well.
Yeah, I'll agree with you on that I wasn't sitting there going, that one's not so good. I think maybe the intro part of Wiped Out can be worked out just to be smoother than it came across. But, that's for the amount of rehearsal that went into it. Ken, what about you? Listening to those performances, all A-okay, or any just strike you as uncomfortable?
Again, I didn't hear the whole thing through. So I can't tell you.
That's difficult. Just make one up then.
Come on.
I can understand. No, but I
fake it till you make it, Ken. Come on.
I can understand Fractured Mirror would be the one, maybe would be hard to pull off live, because it's so different, and has a lot of different guitar overlays going on and stuff. So that would be the one I would think. I think all his other songs are built for live, really, most of them.
Okay, so you haven't heard them all. Do you think his proposed DVD, recording this album in a couple of theater shows, would be a worthy addition to the catalog, or should he just be getting on with working on Origins Volume 2, touring some of Spaceman? Is it time for an Ace Frehley live DVD again? When was the last one? Live plus 4?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he's well overdue for something, so... definitely would want to see that. The solo album played through, and then plus including a bunch of his classics, his songs, other songs live from this, solo career, Frehley's Comet or whatever. Just all combined on it, a full concert, and I think it'd be great because we need something, in video format from him.
All right, so I'm going to ask that same question to the other two guys. So while I ask that, I want you to think about, 6, 7, or 8 songs that you think would have to be added on to the 78 performance to make it a worthwhile DVD release. Same question to you guys, but you're going to have to think and talk at the same time, so I'll be entertained. Lonnie, good DVD idea?
Yeah, I think it's fantastic. I would love to see it shot in some kind of theater and done in a good quality. Why not? I think it's a great idea. And I think that it'd be better received by Kiss fans than maybe an Origins Volume 2. I think something like that is what the hardcore Kiss fans are clamoring for, is something of this nature, as opposed to another Ace album full of covers. I think it would be better received than an Origins 2, definitely.
Yeah, and then finally to you, Mark.
Yeah, I think that doing a DVD would be perfect, actually. He's long overdue. And I mean, if he does it really well, it could be a really good collector piece. I mean, if he, got it filmed properly, some decent lights, and get it recorded properly, and also include other stuff, like include some, backstage footage a bit, or do some footage of him rehearsing the show. People always like seeing those kind of things, like rehearsal footage. Also put some footage in of some of the meet and greets going on and stuff like that. Like if he puts in those kind of extras in, like after it, as part of the bonus footage stuff, I think people would love it. You have the whole concert, and then you can go to some bonus stuff where you can see him rehearsing it, or he can doing his meet and greet stuff, or even some tour bus shenanigans or something. Like all these kind of DVDs have those kind of things where they have tour bus footage and stuff like that. I mean, he could make it a really worthwhile DVD if he added those kinds of things in it as well, because I think not only is the performance going to be the selling point, but those other things would be as well. Especially for someone like me, I like those kind of rehearsal footage things and stuff like that to watch. So I think he could really make a good DVD out of it.
Yeah, I'm down with that idea. If they have a little segment of Tommy Thayer teaching him the licks, that'd be awesome.
Wow. Wow.
I'm a complete ass, I know.
Gloves are off today.
So what are some of the songs that should get added? I'm going to say that songs like Detroit Rock City, Love Gun need to be banished, that they go nowhere near this set. I want to hear songs like Rock Soldiers, Insane. I don't want to, because Richie's not in the band, I don't want to hear anything off Trouble Walking. I don't want to hear anything that Richie sung done by someone else. I don't want to hear Breakouts, because that's like the Rock and Roll All Night of, of that band, of Frehley's Comet. So, I wouldn't mind him doing some stuff like Words Are Not Enough, maybe digging out a deep cut from there. So, 6 to 8 songs, yeah, give me 8. Leave just one, the Kiss song, Cold Gin. Since he's already doing Ozone and Wiped Out, you might as well have the complete trilogy of wastedness from the sober guy on stage. So that would be fun. But I think dig into Second Sighting a little bit and have those songs brought to life with the guitar attack and maybe some of the vocals, but minimize the Kiss stuff, because you've got the 8 songs from the solo album to really make up that body of work. Ken, what are the sorts of things that you'd like to hear, and maybe a couple of the standout tracks that that would make it worthwhile?
Well, I was thinking, definitely, I still want something like, I still want Shock Me on there, and maybe Rocket Ride. As for Frehley's Comet stuff, yeah, definitely Rock Soldiers. I'd like to hear Into the Night also. There's something else off of Frehley's Comet, the first one. I can't remember the name of it now, but that I'd want to hear. I kind of like
Love Me Right, We Got Your Rock, Something Moved.
Maybe it's Love Me Right, something like that. I think I do like that song. From the other later album, where you said you wouldn't want to hear anything. I like when they do. It's not a Ace written song, but Remember Me, that one, where they did. That's live at the end of that album. Oh, what's the name of it? It's off of Trouble Walking, right?
Yeah, but it was on the
Remember Me.
it was on the '84 demo. So I mean, that went back to the earliest era.
Okay, and that's about it. I mean, maybe something off, like you said, Second Sighting. I'm not sure what.
Rocking with the Boys and Bronx Boy. I mean, yay.
Oh wait, why not? Yeah. One of the newer songs, Space Invader. I don't know, one of those songs.
Yeah, shit. The guy's put out 3 studio albums in the past 10 years. I'm sure we could scrape together a few songs. And Bronx Boy sounded great on the Cruise. Rocking with the Boys sounded great on the Cruise, or maybe even Darklight. So there's Lonnie. Let's go to you on that question.
I don't know. I mean, those are fine songs, but I'd rather hear the band do Rock Soldiers or Insane or Separate or something like that, as opposed to something off the new album. I don't know. I mean, those songs are fine. Rockin' with the Boys is a fine song. It's a good song, but I'd rather hear some of those '80s Fraley Comet songs on there. If we're gonna do, the '78 solo album start to finish, well then play some songs from Fraley's Comet era after that. I'd be more interested, and that's just me. It's personal opinion. There's no right or wrong answers here, but that's just my personal opinion. I'd rather hear Separator or even like Juvenile Delinquent or just things like that from that era that really get neglected, that Ace really doesn't play on a solo show, which I think he should, as opposed to Love Gun and Detroit Rock City and things like that. So that's what I'd like. I'd like to hear those neglected songs that he never plays.
And maybe marry that up with Mark's idea of rehearsal footage, and Mark, you were saying you like the fly on the wall kind of aspect. What would you enjoy watching them trying to get Ace to do audio video or some of the demos from the '80s?
Sure.
I mean that sort of shit that he would never throw into a show.
Yeah.
And maybe have him complete All for Nothing, which is, of course, the '78 solo outtake. Put that in the set. That would actually be perfect, because the one known outtake, apart from the blues jam that he did early on, that most people have now heard since it's finally leaked. So finish it off with the word, give them the vocal version, so that most people haven't heard. And I think that would make actually a very cool package, because then you've almost got like a B-side that he can put on his next, 12-inch single that comes in 1,800 different colors of vinyl.
Well, I honestly think that he should do like the whole '78 and then throw in what I thought is, and I made a little list here too, is one song off of each of his other albums, like do Rock Soldiers from Fraley's Comet, do Insane from Second Sight, do either Do Ya or Trouble Walking from Trouble Walking, do Outer Space or Foxy and Free from Anomaly, or do Give Me a Feeling from Space Invader, or even do one of my favorite songs from the Origins. Funny enough, I like Spanish Castle Magic. I really like how he did that. I've always loved that Hendrix song, so I thought maybe he can do something like that. And then, like you said, maybe do Rockin' with the Boys or I Want to Go Back or something from the newest one. Just something from every record. He doesn't need to do the Kiss songs. I'm like you guys. I don't want to hear him do Detroit Rock City or Love Gun or those songs. Do your own material. You have so much of it to offer. Why not just play that stuff?
Yeah, shit. I mean, come on. He really needs to do Beth.
Well, yeah, if you're doing Love Gun Detroit Rock City, why not?
All right. Let's just do a couple of these other quick topics. We're going to do another episode about Origins Volume 2 now that we've had time to kind of digest the first volume and seen what he's done over the past year. But one of the other things that they did at the New York Expo, or pardon me, the New Jersey Expo. Jesus. Boy. I'm a dead man. Ace did several jam sessions with other people. I mean, he did one with Lita Ford, but the one that caught my eye on YouTube was him jamming with Punky Meadows and Frank Domino from Angel, and they brought out Tush by ZZ Top. And I'm like, throw that on Origins Volume 2, get those guys into the studio with him, have Angel and Ace. Would just be brilliant. Have any of you seen that yet, or are you going to rush off after this episode and go and watch it, Ken?
I think I saw that, though. I mean, wasn't that the one that you also had Jean Bouvier up on stage too?
Yeah,
I think I saw that. Yeah, because they were trading vocals on that. I think when they were jamming that, and I thought it was actually pretty interesting, because the last thing I would have expected him to do was a ZZ Top song. Not to say it's a bad band to cover, but I didn't expect Ace Frehley to come up and do that, but yeah, I think it's a good idea. Maybe it might even be a song on Origins too.
Lonnie.
I have not seen that yet, so I'm gonna have to go home and watch that tonight. But it's an interesting concept of Ace doing a ZZ Top song. That's not something I would have thought would happen. I'm with Mark on that. That it seems out of place, and it's just not Ace's style maybe. But I'm interested to hear what that sounds like.
Yep, with the guys from Angel too. I mean, that's
it's pretty cool.
Yep. Ken.
Yeah, well, I haven't seen it either, but now I have to.
Show prep.
Yeah, this has prepped well for this.
Yeah, I added that into our show list, about 2 hours ago. I gave you lots of notice. Come on.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting. It's interesting, doing a ZZ Top song, like you guys said. So you talk about Origins too. I don't really want an Origins 2. I'd rather not have an Origins 2.
I don't need it.
All these people who,
I'm with you.
Doing cover albums, one's enough for me. I mean, in the 3-year period, I'd rather him do, new original material.
I'm with you. One's enough, and he always does a cover song on every album. He always has at least one cover on every album anyway, so why do I need an album full of covers?
Yep.
Yeah.
I just don't.
Especially if he's going to knock out studio albums that have short running times, like Spaceman is great. I love it. I've listened to it like 4 times this week, and still am enjoying it. But it's a short album. Plus it includes a cover, so that kind of makes sense from that perspective. I would much rather we go back to what we just mentioned a few minutes ago, and maybe him put in unreleased old demos into a live set and just give us new stuff that way. So,
sure.
Last question for the day before we call this this a show is Kiss End of the Road tour book. There was a good thread on what people wanted to see in this tour book. So without writing an essay or a book about it, Mark, what would you like to see as the Kiss End of the Road tour book?
Well, I put down that I'd like to see lots of photos, hope maybe even some that we haven't seen from all eras of the band. Include some pictures of Bruce and maybe even Mark St. John, if there's any pictures around that we haven't seen, or some Vinny ones. I don't know if they'd ever do that again, but even some pictures with Tommy, maybe when he was first in the band, with them like early on photos. I thought that might be cool. Also, I thought it might be good to come up to some of the members of the bands and have them put little quotes in the program about maybe some of their favorite concerts that they did over the years. Even ask Peter and Ace to make a quote about what some of their favorite Kiss concerts they've ever done, in there. And for somebody like me too, one thing that I'd like to see is, and Rush used to be great with this, is they used to put listings of all their gear that they would use on each tour, right? And being a music geek, I like those kind of things, put some of the stuff down that what they're using for their live performances. So that's some of the things I thought about maybe putting in.
All right, Ken, how about you?
Yeah, well, I saw that and I commented on it. It was a few weeks ago when Lonnie was hosting. We kind of crossed over that and touched on it. And I remember what I said is, for a tour book, is I wanted a hardbound book, but not the large, super size
hot in the shade books.
No
Atlas.
But no Atlas. But I do want the hardbound book with cover the history from the beginning all the way up to now. I mean, you don't have to have full page shots or anything for that stuff. You can still at the end put more of the full page type photo shots of the new, for the recent tour, right? With the recent costumes and all that stuff. So that's how I would do it. And I like Mark's idea of having, text or something, describe something about that time period, the back, early period.
Nice. Lonnie, I know you've covered it before, so a quick recap.
Yeah. I'd like to see something similar to what they did on the first farewell tour, recapping the history of the band, obviously. And I really like the concept that they did on the first farewell tour, listing all the concerts. I know there were multiple airs in it, but I think a lot of history has been discovered since then, and they could do it right. And I really enjoyed that concept from years ago. And the 40th anniversary tour book kind of did the same thing too. Kind of went through, didn't have the concerts in the background of it, but you kind of flip through it. You could see the chronological history of the band. And speaking of the 40th tour book, the 40th anniversary tour book, I was actually looking at the other day. There was no picture of Vinny in the 40th anniversary tour book. Actually, they cut and paste over him, and his face does not appear at all in there. So I think that concept may repeat itself when we get our hands on the tour book here in about 2 months. So, but Julian, you'll have to show it off for us as soon as you get it at the show.
I will that night. When I get back to my hotel room, I will be buying a few extra copies just in case it gets changed up. I only want to see one thing, and it's something that they've not. I don't think they've done in a tour book before. I would love the centerfold to be a 3D pop-up of the band.
Ooh, like a pop-up book?
Yes.
I like a good pop-up.
Whatever, of the stage, of the band. Come on, you think of the Alive 2 gatefold. Now imagine you open up the tour book and it's like a little 3D pop-up, and they throw in like
those sliders. You can move them with the sliders.
Yeah.
That's their new stage. It's in the tour book. It's not the real stage.
They've done everything already in the tour books. I mean, like Lonnie said with the Farewell tour book, the Alive 35 tour book was fantastic for the pictorial history of the band. If they take elements of all these great tour books that they've done, as long as it's got a 3D pop-up in the middle, I think that'd be...
It could have scratches.
Or it needs a light, that it comes with a battery and something glows or whatever. Just something different. They've done die cut covers before, and those are lame. Maybe like double platinum mylar or whatever, on the outside. Just something to make it stand out. If it's going to be special, whoever said hardbound. That would be awesome. That would have been the best of the best of the best. All of the tour books hardbound into one history.
Oh yeah,
type volume, and then the very last one in there is the one for the End of the Road tour, and you can't get it separately until after the tour, where you can go to
KissOnline.com.
Or something like that. All right, we're going to cut this show down to just a short show today because I've got to be elsewhere. So. What are your thoughts on all the topics that we've discussed today? Which of the songs that you enjoyed in the A78 performance? What would you like to see for a final tour book? Would Tush with the guys from Angel be good on Origins 2, or should Origins 2 be forbidden, etc., etc., etc.? Chime in wherever you listen to this show, be it on YouTube, on the FAQ, on Facebook, and let us know your thoughts. But for now, from Lonnie, from Mark, Ken and myself, we thank you for listening, and we shall see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final, there are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.